On the program now, according to a 2023 World Bank report, $186.3 billion in 8 years. That's the staggering sum the Nigerian diaspora has sent back home. According to the data from the World Bank and Budget Office of the Federation, Nigeria's diaspora remittances play a huge contribution in cushioning the adverse effect of foreign exchange scarcity and keeping the country's forex reserve afloat. On Tuesday, the Nigerian Naira settled at 1,551 Naira 24 kobo to the dollar at the official window as the pair-to-pair market crossed 1,800 Naira per dollar. Recall the federal government, in collaboration with the Central Bank of Nigeria, has initiated a joint effort to combat forex speculation and tackle the issues affecting the country's economic stability. What is the fate of diaspora remittances in the face of this crisis? Well, to provide some perspective, I'm joined by the startup founder of the Wealth Hackers, Mr. Gbenga Onifade. He joins us virtually from the United Kingdom. Thank you, Mr. Onifade, for your time. Let's start with the UK GDP report first before we get into the real conversation. But we understand the economy fell into recession by the end of 2023. How are businesses or the overall economy responding to this reality?
Well, good afternoon. I think the first thing we need to understand is that while the market leads, while the economy lags, really. So the UK is actually falling into the recession right from last year. And how do we define recession in its term? It's when the economy is shrank, the GDP shrank over two consecutive quarters. So yes, UK's economy is actually fell into recession, and which is caused by a lot of things, a myriad of reasons. We're talking about the COVID, we're talking about of course Brexit, which is still a lagging issue right from 2016-15. So COVID, Brexit, and of course the rise in inflation, which has been felt worldwide. So. And absolutely, you're right. So UK fell into recession. That was last year. It hasn't actually really affected much the economy in real terms, because these things tend to trickle down into the economy, into the real world economy, just about 6 to 12 months. But of course, there has been a rise in wage, and there's been real demand on the job front. So the economy is actually still strong. It's not been felt out there, but the real inflation, which is sticky, which is the real elephant in the room, that's actually been felt. And of course, economists are they're betting themselves that this real wage might just get UK to trip out of a recession. I mean, people have been betting on it for quite a while, and it kind of felt stubborn. But of course, while people were betting, UK was already in a recession. And by the time you think about it, I don't think it will be a lasting one, fortunately for the people. But because of the strong economy, this is not actually being felt out there. The job growth is still strong. And the fact, wage rise, the pay packets in terms of what people are being paid is actually, is the highest historically. But at the same time, unfortunately, people are feeling the pinch in the pockets with this inflation, which just wouldn't go away.
Help us understand how the UK recession is likely to affect diaspora, remittance amid Naira falling and all of that. Speak to us about that. How do you think this will affect, remittances from abroad?
Okay, that will be a double-edged sword, unfortunately, because yes, diaspora remittance has actually gone up, and this has been going up, year by year by a couple of percentage, really. Everyone, foreigners who become nationalized or become citizens here, they've all got someone in their home country, if I can say in quotes. And of course, as a result of that, they get to send a sizable portion of their wages, home as gifts, projects, etc. But at the same time, inflation is quite high here. They are feeling the pinch. And again, speaking of the falling Naira, so while things might seem like it's a lot, but there's a lot more demand from the people in Nigeria, but coupled with the rise in inflation and the price of things, which is just not coming down. So it's a double-edged sword. I expect that to just flatten out temporarily instead of sending more, because there will be more. There's going to be more demand, and of course, people in diaspora, they are filled with the fact that okay, there there's a falling exchange rate, which is better for them because things are cheaper to their people in Nigeria. However, due to the rising cost of things, which is catching up faster than the rates going up, it's not a good way. So overall, definitely, I will be saying diaspora remittances will be frozen. Will be frozen in terms of not, more will be demanded, but I don't think people can send enough just to be able to catch up with inflation. Because of course, we will say in the home states where they're going to, in Nigeria, in this case, in point, inflation is rising faster than the money which is going in. So
in other words,
I would expect it.
So in other words, you are saying that, the cost of the rising inflation here in Nigeria, and so it's going to eat much more into what you're remitting back home here, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It will eat up into the difference and you wouldn't really feel it. So even though you might be sending a lot more, which you probably cannot afford to because there is sticky inflation here, which is being sticky. And even though you've got a lot worse situation, or they've got a lot worse situation in Nigeria, but the prices of things are going up in such a way that it cannot catch up enough with the exchange rate.
Speak to us. I know the government has been, trying to clamp down on, those holding the dollars and some other currencies as well. Speak to us about this. How do you think the remittances or diaspora remittances will respond, or those who make money outside the country and they repatriate back home? How will these, this move affect their remittances? I want us to understand how this will affect how much they can remit back home here.
So, yes, we, in terms of the central bank actions generally, right? So what's going on internally in Nigeria? That's internal. It doesn't really affect what's going on, to the diasporas. I think, unfortunately, on the other side as well, I don't expect that to be any, it's not, I think the Naira is actually a casualty of the government decisions. Unfortunately, that would not affect anything at all. We've got a big elephant, or the main elephant in the room still remains what we all know, which is corruption, mismanagement, waste, unfortunately, and of course the lack of production, by Nigerians. There's just that demand, there's that want for anything foreign. Until that has been dealt with, or there are policies in place to just be able to boost capacity at home, that still doesn't, just nothing's going to change. So unfortunately, there will still be that constant demand from abroad. Again, I understand the government is actually implementing a few policies, a few red tapes in order to try and, of course, try and build the capacity at home, strengthen the Naira. If you think about it, remittances, it's a good, we'll probably call it the devil, but which is needed at the same time. Yes, it's needed. It's not great for the Naira, but at the same time, you can't exactly block it because the economy is not strong enough. I think the remittance actually contribute to a sizable percentage chunk in terms of what's keeping, the relatives or even the economy afloat as well. So Nigeria cannot do with or cannot do without it. Unfortunately, it's just a needed devil in the room. But again, I think in terms of getting the Naira back up there, it's all about the demand and supply. And I think, there has been a few stopgaps which the government is trying to do. But, the central bank, their job, the core job is to institute monetary policies, really. And at some point right now, it kind of feels like you are chasing shadows, unfortunately. But again, like we said, until we get the key elephants in the room, I think we do a lot of talking about this in Nigeria. But I think there's a lot more to do with more actions right now. And until actions on both sides on ground, implementing, we could implement policies, all day long. But until we start taking these unfriendly decisions by ourselves, we look into the mirror and we start, because one of the things the UK Prime Minister John Major in the 90s did say was, if it's not hurting, it's not working. And of course, we all have to feel the pinch, really. General sacrifices, and there's only so much from the diaspora which can happen. Otherwise, there's just going to be that constant pull factor or black tax, really. So there's going to be constant demand. But at the same time, back in the home country, the decisions have to start working. There has to be boots on ground. Everyone has to have these general sacrifices. And until that happens, there will be no strength for the Naira, there will be no recovery, and constant diaspora remittances will keep coming in. But again, while inflation here remains sticky, things are just going to flatten out.
I saw a few news network reporting that Nigerians can no longer buy USDT on Binance. That's a crypto exchange. Perhaps this is one of the approaches of the Nigerian government to curb the collapse of the Naira. How true is this information?
Yes, as yesterday evening, the Binance arm of, which is the largest cryptocurrency exchange in the world, the Nigerian arm of Binance was, I think there was a message was sent to them, and it was instantly instituted. They didn't want people, on the exchange, peer-to-peer exchange platform. They didn't want people exchanging more than 5,000 Naira, which is probably right now, pardon me, just about $20, because they believe, the central bank believe, the speculators are driving up there's a fake demand, and of course drives up the economy. And they're not wrong, because speculators, or on the cryptocurrency, the digital exchange, there is actually a real demand out there. The young generations, everyone's looking at diversifying their wealth and different ways to make money. So you do have some real genuine traders out there. But again, it's a general thing. Speculators are necessary for the market. If there's no real demand out there, there will not be a real supply. So yes, one of the conversations I have with people is, are you ready to invest in the Naira? And I don't think anyone's ready to invest in Nigeria PLC as we speak, because, again, you've got to look at where you are putting your money into. Does it satisfy, are you happy with the management, the way it's been run? Are you happy with the meaning? Are you happy with the team themselves? Or, do you think there's any margin of safety there? So there's no safety net out there. And if there's a lack, or where there's a real shortfall in dollars, in the real paper dollars, people will rather go to the backed dollar, which is the digital version of the dollar. And right now, the USDT, which is the cryptocurrency, or one of the cryptocurrency stable dollars, is where Nigeria, actually, in fact, more Nigerians invest in that, in holding their currencies, than in Bitcoins. And yes, Nigeria is actually blocking it. But one thing we've got to understand is that Naira, to strengthen the Naira, it's instituted by a real demand and supply. If the demand is not there, no matter what you put the price, or the speculators put the prices, they're just going to lose out. There will not be a real supply. But the demand is there. People want it. They rather want to dump their Naira to preserve their currency in the USDT. And while you ban the Binance, which is the biggest cryptocurrency exchange, I think one of the mistakes that they're making is that there are quite a few of them with billions in volume of transactions being done every day. So if you ban Binance, I've actually checked a few of them without having to call them out. And I'm actually seeing Nigerians have actually moved their money there, and it is there right now. It's still constituting, they're still trading. And in fact, while they instituted that yesterday, Naira just went again to, it just dipped further against the dollar. So they, to an all-time low, as we've seen, and it just keeps surging. So it kind of feels like we're chasing shadows, we're firefighting, but it's just like a guessing game. We don't exactly know what we should be doing. Again, like I said, key core objectives that the central banks and the government should be tackling. I think they're not putting this, if you pardon the language, that they're not putting the energy in the right places, but they're rather tackling these other areas, which is a policy people don't think will work. I mean, during the previous presidency, it did not work when they actually did ban the entire cryptocurrency. It didn't work. Generally what you would have expected them to do, like any forward-looking government, is to think about a way to make money in form of taxation. And I'm actually been seeing some of the things that's actually working behind the scene. It's a shame that not many people know about it. There's a presidential fiscal committee. They had a symposium on the public consultation and how to get taxes and how to make things a lot more transparent. I think that's a lot more laudable compared to these other areas that the government is looking into.
So a few things before I let you go. What would be your recommendation with regards to trying to encourage diaspora remittances, because that play a very huge role when you talk about excess liquidity in Nigeria here. So how do you think the government can balance that by encouraging diaspora remittances and not, again, gagging those who are trying to hold the dollar That's one. Secondly, I also want you to talk to us about the implication of blocking transactions on Binance for Nigerian traders.
Sure. Okay. Great questions, actually. So let's just address them in piecemeal. So number one, if you're looking at diaspora remittances, I mean, I, as a diaspora, Nigerian diaspora myself, or as so I'm speaking as a Nigerian, not as a British person. Usually when I send funds to family back home, and of course it's legal, we do have the access to be able to collect it in dollars. I usually prefer them to get it in dollars and just hold it there. When you need it, you can change it. That's being blocked right now, okay? So the second thing is, would I still send the money? Yes, I will send. And generally, just the general chats or bounces around, when I bounce information around fellow diasporans and based on what I read, you know, it's all about when needed is when they will send, as and when needed, because they wouldn't just want to send it while you hold it in Naira while it's diminishing. Again, that's part of saying, would you invest in Nigeria PLC? Again, so the sentiment is still very negative. So that's just number one. So in terms of holding that, people want to see real, you know, they want to see real progress. Are you moving the needle? Otherwise, you know, number one, you just can't engage. I mean, I remember reading about the Nigeria's president is actually the most traveled president right now in Africa. But what did he say? His comeback was that he's trying to get he's trying to get investors into Nigeria. Fine, it's all well and good. You're trying, you know, he spent the entire budget for the year on travel. He spent it within the first 90 days. So all well and good, you're trying to get Nigerians, but it's actually laughable because Nigerians are not seeing progress. And the diasporans would say, you know what, I'd rather keep my money here than put it back in Nigeria PLC, if I'm going to say that again. So that's not a good look. That's just number one. I mean, people talked about it's an opportunity for Nigerians to get trained and, of course, get a job abroad, foreigner. But, you know, you do have companies who are blocking Nigeria. I mean, what does Nigeria have? What's the difference in Nigeria and South Africa? We do have that generic, you know, English factor whereby we could just, you know, you have people setting up call centers in South Africa and the Philippines, in India, but they've got a better reputation. So that's one thing first. We just have that image cleanup. People need to see that. It needs to be reflected. Again, sure. That comes from what we read. Corruption is actually out there. It's not just about bad mouth in the country. So that has to be done. There has to be real progress. That's number one. Number two, there has to be that public engagement. I think I do actually will say I commend the president. You know, within the first 100 days, there's been quite a few conversations, press, which has been given on telly, but there's not really been that public engagement. People want to ask real questions. There just seem to be that disconnect. So that's not happening again. And this is what, you know, people in diaspora, this is what they're used to. They've been able to speak to the councillor. They understand what's going on. But people are not seeing that in Nigeria. Maybe it's in progress, but we're not seeing that yet. And of course, you would expect people to just stay back. So that's another factor there. So you're not moving the needle at all as the government generally. And now speaking of, now people finding alternative means to hold their dollars, and Nigeria's blocking the digital currencies. What people need, or what the government needs to understand, and I'm sure they know this as well, it's actually worse for the Naira than being better, because you are creating real scarcity. And when there's real scarcity in dollars, people would rather pay any amount, because people out there, and one of the reasons people are not paying taxes is they don't trust the nation. So if there's no trust out there, there's going to be people out there just paying whatever amount, and it's just going to send the Naira to a further low.
Startup founder of the Word Hackers, Mr. Benga Onifade, thank you for your time in Business Nigeria.
Thanks for having me.
Also watching Business Nigeria, coming to you live from our studios here.